To the Monday, September 22nd meeting of the school committee. We're going to call to order now at 7:01 p.m. and I'm going to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if you can.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. I want to say a big welcome to our students joining us tonight, Gracie and Anya. We're looking forward to having you with us for the year and can't wait to work with you and with STAC and with Student Senate. So thank you for joining us tonight. And we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda? No, so I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Bill?
Second.
Well, okay, and all in favor? Aye, unanimous. Okay, and now we will move on to public comment. Just a reminder for anybody with public comment to state your name and address at the table or online. And that we ask speakers to try and limit their comments to about 2 minutes in the spirit of equity and efficiency. And also just remind the public that the meeting is being recorded and streamed on WestfordCAT and will be made available for streaming at a later date. So anybody for public comment? Anyone for public comment? Just guessing. No problem.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Judith Calva. I live at Stone Ridge Road in Westford. I'm here tonight to request that the school committee create an appropriate public recognition of former Superintendent Bill Olson after his successful tenure here in Westford. As a disclaimer, I worked with Bill for close to 30 years as either school committee member or finance committee member, so I do have a lot of in-depth knowledge, I guess you could say, about Bill. But I will try to be as objective as possible. Bill has always demonstrated trust and respect for all who worked for him, worked in the system, and he always fostered strong working relationships with staff and town boards to the benefit of the town. Under his leadership, the Westford Public Schools became one of the best public schools in the country, currently ranked 74th in the nation and 13th in Massachusetts. His hiring of excellent staff who nurtured and motivated our students led to these standings. Since 1986, thousands of students, adults, and professionals in Westford have benefited from his approach to education, a love for all aspects of education, his support of the well-being of students and faculty, and his understanding of the town's priorities. Bill dedicated his time here to bringing high-quality education to Westford. His style was to include staff, town officials, parents, and students in problem-solving and new initiatives. Relationships Bill developed with town boards continue to benefit the schools. He was viewed as a leader who trusted and supported all who worked in the district. In turn, he was respected and trusted. His philosophy of teamwork led to a collaborative atmosphere that demonstrated its value during the response to COVID in 2020, when hundreds of staff members worked throughout the summer to develop a plan that would be implemented in September with as much ease as possible. That's been summer vacation for a number of staff members. As business manager, assistant superintendent, and then superintendent, Bill always recognized that the schools and town boards shared the same pot of money, and that collaboration with town managers and boards would result in more success than a confrontational tones we had in the past. Town and gown riffs essentially disappeared during Bill's time. I hope they still continue. As a leader, he trusted and supported all who worked in the district. He was an active listener and problem solver. A few of Bill's accomplishments in the 30-odd years that he was here. I could go on for pages, but I won't. He created a safe, supportive, respectful, and trusting culture that empowered students and staff. His decisions were always focused on students and their needs. He was the driving force between implementing a full-day kindergarten here in town. He initiated the Westford Public Schools Crisis Management Plan. He implemented the K-8 redistricting in the late 90s and a plan that still continues today. He has conducted numerous successful and collaborative labor negotiations with, 15 labor unions you have now? A lot of labor unions in the school system. He was part of all of them. He continuously advocated for higher teacher salaries. He developed annual school budgets to meet the needs of a growing student population and their educational well-being and development, as well as being aware of Westford's fiscal realities. Over time, this has resulted in long-term stability for the programs, the services, and the staff. He initiated the employee handbook. He introduced Mandarin to the curricula. Bill acted as a data source since the late 1980s, data source and advisor to the many building committees this town has had since sometime 1980 something. He was their data source. He developed important ties and working relationships with town boards and managers, several town managers. He transitioned WPS to a single bus contractor rather than the 10 or 20 we had back in the early days. We had to negotiate each one every year. This is one manager that you negotiate with. It's a big difference. He had working relationships with local and state authorities to the benefit of the town. He implemented the ADA requirements, which several buildings needed to have retrofitting for that. With an eye to the future, Bill periodically revised the strategic plan for Westford Public Schools. I believe that Bill's lasting impact on Westford is worthy of recognition by the schools as well as the town. Bill led and managed significant contributions to improve the quality of Westford schools and to the community itself. Ask any realtor, and he or she will say it's the quality of the Westford schools that bring people to move to Westford. And I think that's all I have to say, except that when I moved to town, it was the green spaces and the farms that people came to Westford for. They wanted the country. They come to Westford now because of the schools. And that's you people. So congratulations. Okay.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Yep.
I didn't sign my name.
It's just,
It's right in front.
I live on Sassafras Road, and it takes a long time to write that. My name is Rose O'Donnell. I've been in Westford for 47 years now. My 2 children went through the Westford schools, and my 6 grandchildren have all been through the Westford schools. They're now all in college, and they're all, if I can do a little bragging, getting all A's and graduating summa, summa, magna, and 3 to go. And I credit Bill Olson for the success of their education and their experiences in school. From 06 to 12, I was on the finance committee, so I worked with Bill and his financial people on his budgets, and he was always, reasonable. There was never the town gown thing. There was none of that I was aware of during those years. And the things that I noticed and remember the most, the years that we came out first in all these, not always first, sorry, in top echelons of various measures of how the Westford schools were going. I did some Google searching and it didn't come out all that good, but according to Niche, which is a Pittsburgh-based website, in 2021, at the end of his tenure, we were in the top 0.5% of schools across the United States. That's 58th out of 11,645 schools. And 74th out of 10,700 schools in regard to being one of the best school districts in the country. So that's pretty amazing. And I've been told by people that colleges have said that that students who graduate from Westford Academy are ready for college. They're ready. And I credit Bill a lot with that. I'm in a book club with all teachers, former teachers of Westford Academy, and they never can say enough good about how good it was to work under Bill. His focus was always the best education for the individual student. When anything came up that he thought he could improve the experience for an individual student, he was on that. And I think that was a big part of what he did. And he was very collaborative, they said. And I always thought of him as I would say he's not really a superintendent, he's a magician because of what he was able to achieve.
So I think since we've have a couple of schools that have recognized superintendents, of which I don't remember these kind of accolades from their tenure, not to say that they didn't do a good job, Bill clearly put us on the map as far as education goes. And to me, clearly deserves, I would say, a school named after him. And 3 of my grandchildren went to Stony Brook, and I'm sure they would be delighted to have their school honor the superintendent who did so much for their education and career. I mean, you guys have all seen these, right, that various accolade. And this one, I think, is the best because it was written by 2 students, and it talked about how Bill Olson treated them. And I think that individual thing was a really important thing. That's it. That's all I
Thank you very
wanted to
much.
say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rose.
And thank you guys for doing all of this.
Thank you. And just last check, have we anybody online for public comment?
If you're on Zoom for public comment, please raise your hand and you'll be unmuted and promoted. Yes. Ken, I'm unmuting you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Ken Teal. I've been active in Westford for a while. I guess compared to the others, I'm a blow-in. We've only been here for 30 years. I was very active in Westford youth basketball. I was the president of the association for a number of years and needed to work with Bill initially when he was a business manager. And his interest was always in upholding the experience that our students had within basketball. There were many times we had weather issues, and Bill would always work with me to help keep the schools open, and I appreciate it. I had the honor to serve on the school committee and work with Bill and to see him in action, not just through what I've seen in the schools with my children in the schools, but also as a person. And he was amazing, a very gifted person, very dedicated person, and a critical person to the life of Westford. And I think that this honor for him would be very well deserved and would resonate with our residents. So I would encourage the school committee and the town of Westford to give this very serious consideration. Thank you.
Ken, thank you for that. Can I just ask you what your address is, just so we can state it for the record?
I'm sorry, I
No
didn't follow the
problem.
rules. At 3 Beaver Dam Drive, Westford.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks. There we go. Okay. And we will move on. I don't think we have anybody else. Awesome. Okay, so moving on to informational updates, and we will start with our new student representatives, and we'd love as well, Anya and Grace, as I said, we welcome you, but if you want to just introduce yourselves and let us know, who you're representing, that kind of thing.
Not to push you on the spot. No.
Yeah.
I'm Grace, and I'm representing Student Senate, which this is our first year having a representative on school committee, so we're very excited about that.
And Grace, can I ask, just to give everybody some clarity, what does the Student Senate do, or what's your kind of mission?
Yeah, Student Senate, we try to like student advisory committee is more directly affiliated with school committee. So Student Senate, we focus more on kind of like school policy and like regulations and stuff that students want to see change. So we do that all through we do have a lot of communication with like the deans and different groups at school to kind of bring like a more like policy focused.
My name is Anya. I'm the representative for Student Advisory Committee. This is my 4th year on the committee. I'm a senior. And Student Advisory Committee, it's essentially the student branch of the school committee itself. We have, I'd say, to differentiate from Student Senate, because we do work on a lot of similar topics, theirs is definitely a lot more school-based, and ours is town-based. But I'm excited to collaborate more this year.
Awesome. Thank you. And have you any updates to share? Is it too new into the school year? Will that information potentially come over the coming weeks and months?
It's a little early.
Yeah. No problem. Just checking. Okay, so welcome and thank you again for joining us this year. And now we'll check in with our superintendent and assistant superintendent.
Right. Well, Principal Engano is very thankful for a new scoreboard that is being donated to the Blanchard Middle School gym from the Westford Youth Basketball. So thank you very much to that organization. And our day school students have been busy over the past few weeks. They have harvested a bumper crop of lettuce from their school gardens. And the lettuce has already been harvested, washed, prepared in the cafeteria, served to staff and students. And they're very excited to keep their gardens going and their farm-to-table activities that they're doing at the day schools.
In tonight's packet, we've included the fourth quarter reports from Valley Collaborative for your perusal, along with their newsletter. Of course, if you have any, it's not our business specifically, but we are a member of the collaborative, and I sit on the board at Valley. And one of our responsibilities is to make sure that you have access to those reports. So if you ever have questions about it, you can certainly forward them to me, or even Dr. Scott, who is the head of the collaborative, the executive director of the collaborative there. On October 1st, DESE is rolling the new MCAS family portal out. So what that's going to be is we'll be sending that information via Power School out to all of our families, but it's a new opportunity for family members to be able to access their individual students' results and the history of those results as well too. I believe we'll still be sending out the results maybe through the portal. That's still how they're planning to use the portal. We're not exactly sure yet, but they'll be rolling it out on October 1st. So we'll be sending that information out to families. I wanted to mention it tonight because our next meeting won't be until after that. But so that the new DESE MCAS portal. Then one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight was just to remind everybody, in the packet we also included the AG's guidance and the update that I sent to families back in February that was in response to the increased ICE information. And so we had shared that with families in February. We continue to follow the AG's guidance. I wanted to share it again in the packet tonight so that you have access to that and to see really what it's talking about. It's, again, really focusing on student privacy and reminding families that it is our first and foremost responsibility to protect that privacy. And so when people have questions, if there was any interaction, if someone came to the school seeking information, what we wouldn't be able to share and what we would do. We would contact families immediately. We would also consult with our legal counsel, but the schools know that they would reach out to my office if there was a concern or consideration. One of the things I'd like to remind people of too is when we first started talking about this last year, we also talked with Chief Chambers about, okay, well, what type of collaboration does that look like? And I think it's important for everybody to remember that they're public safety officers, and so Chief Chambers reminded me the WPD would always be there to support us as public safety officers in the event if something was contentious, but that would just be their involvement specifically. And so if someone has any questions or concerns, they can certainly talk to me. They could also talk directly to the building principals. The building principals are aware of, again, what our expectations and requirements are in terms of protecting all of our students' information. So that information is just up there, just really for to remind folks again what we've communicated already. And that's what we have.
Awesome.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When this was originally put out last February, was it put out in other languages at all?
It does exist. The actual translations exist in other languages, and you can get that by following some of those links as well too. When the AG's office had sent it out, they had not translated everything yet, but they have since then translated it. And I sent it out originally to families directly what the AG's office shared with us. My update gets translated, so families receive it in the language of their choice via the system that we use. But yes, it's a good point that the actual resources from the AG's office at that time weren't all translated. Yeah. But they are available now in multiple languages.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And any school committee updates?
Well, I think we have a lot of I just want to really quickly, sorry,
Yep.
say thank you for taking the feedback on the personnel updates. Just
I was
scanning
gonna say
through
so.
that, it really just kind of made it a little easier to follow, so.
It was on my to-do list, too. Thank you for listening. It was much clearer.
Some kudos.
Last Thursday evening, September 18th, WestfordCAT had a reception for Tom Clay for his years of service on the board from 2017 to 2025. It was delightful, and there was a lot of yummy food, and we got to see the inside of the new CAT van, so which has already, I think, gone to a couple of sporting events.
Awesome.
Finance committee, subcommittee did meet, but we'll talk more about that with goals. Just a Robinson School Building Committee update. You may remember from the last update, we had posted our request for services to hire the owner's project manager that basically acts to protect the town and school district as we go through this process, and is our sort of industry expert to mediate and work with the architects and the designers and whatever other steps happen from this point forward. We were very pleased to get 10 proposals of firms that were interested in working with us. My sincere gratitude to the selection committee, the evaluation committee, which was myself, Dr. Chu, town manager Kristen Loss, and 2 of the residents on the Robinson School Building Committee, Steve Taylor and Lindsay Richard, who both work in the industry and have been invaluable in their expertise. So all 5 of us spent some of our personal time reviewing all 10 proposals and ranking them based on 11 different criteria. It was pretty time intensive because these proposals are like 20 pages long. So I just want to thank everybody for that. We have some the highest ranking ones will be interviewed in person and do reference checks, and then we start negotiating with our top choice. So once that becomes more public, I'll give another update, but my thanks for that.
Awesome. I just want to give 2 updates. First, thank you everyone for Westfest on Saturday. I think it was, again, a glorious day. We looked out in the weather. The event itself was just fantastic, really well attended. But I think, again, our booth felt like it was quite successful. Again, we were meeting a lot of new faces again of families who have families are from the district. We had some really good conversations. We got some lovely feedback, including one kiddo who said they already had a dream school in that they went to day school. They didn't need anything new.
That was really sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And we were blown away, not just by some of the adults, but there was some genuine, there was I think a 7th grader from Blanchard who spoke about, spaces for students with disabilities, just the heart behind some of those sentiments was amazing.
There was a student as young as 4.5 who commented about needing a space to nap in the
Yes.
new dream school.
Yeah, yeah.
There was another student a couple students mentioned robots.
Yeah.
In the new school,
Liking
a robot
automation.
station.
There's a couple requests for cookies,
Yeah,
too.
the cookies.
So I just, it was balanced, everything was covered.
Yeah, but it was a lovely moment to connect with the kids, but also talk with the parents. So, school committee members, if anybody has other ideas of then potential events coming up, I know we had maybe toyed with the WA, the holiday bazaar, maybe. So have a think if you feel that maybe that's something, again, we should look at. Policy update, we met as well last week. We're up and running. Our team for this year is Jess's secretary, Larry's vice chair, and I'm chairing it. And we will already be coming to you on our next meeting with the first reading. There is a policy that is being requested by DESE based on any school district that has a regional technical school that they're part of or in their community, that they have to have a policy showing middle school pathways to accessing information and learning about that as an option for their high school career. So we have to do that. So we've already got sample language and stuff. So that's what we'll be starting with.
It's really just articulating.
It's
what
just
we
our
already
tech,
do.
exactly. So we're not having to start from scratch.
Right.
Yeah. And lastly, very exciting, from now on, anytime we refer to Valerie Young, we need to refer to her as MASC award winner Valerie Young, who tonight we're saying she's being recognized as the Division 1 All-State School Committee 2025 award. So the MASC So the MASC, for those who don't know, is our state school committee association. They have a number of divisions across the state, and each year they look for one person per division, a current sitting school committee member who has gone above and beyond the duty of call to really make an impact in the district. And I've served with Valerie now for 5 years, and I can say without doubt, well deserved, and no better committee member to receive that honour. So, no, genuinely, Valerie, thank you for the work. And I mean, Courtney and Chris, you've seen it as well. There's a lot of work has gone into budget
Now you're just
and
piling on
processes.
because you know how much.
I know you hate this.
Crawling
So.
out my skin. Yeah,
So no,
thank
it's
you.
well deserved. So well
I think
done.
you're running behind on your agenda. You
That's
should-
totally fine. I'll move on. I'll give it another 10 minutes. So there's an awards dinner on the Friday night of MASC if anyone wants to come down to the Cape and see Valerie get her award.
Thank you. Well done.
Congratulations, well deserved.
There we go.
We need balloons.
Yeah. And some bubbles. Okay, so now more of the boring stuff. Sorry, Jeff, you've got to go and we're going to move on to our
Award-winning proposal.
Yeah.
to share with us.
on our
I'll
capital
try and be
projects.
cautious with the agenda.
Keep it upbeat.
Thank you for having me tonight. It's that fun time of year where we get to talk about capital planning. It's obviously a busy time of year. We're just catching our breaths from the busy summer we just had, and now we're right back into planning our goals for the following year. So Dr. Chu asked me how long I would need for this. I said about a half an hour, and as I put together this presentation, I realized I may exceed that. So I will try to be as succinct as possible here. So if we want to dive right in, I guess before I talk about where we're heading with capital, I'll talk about what we've accomplished over the last year. Our first project that we're partially completed is the renovation of the Abbott wastewater treatment plant exterior. It's kind of tough to tell from the pictures there, but it is significantly cleaned up from where we were last year. We had a total project budget of about $50,000, and to date we've completed the roof, the vinyl siding on the gable ends, and we've replaced all the rotted wood trim around the roof edges with PVC composite. We've also had the front exterior pressure washed. What we still have pending on that is some window casing work, the replacement of the exterior door, and a new gutter system installed. So we're trending well below budget on that. And what else can I say about our wastewater plants? So it's exciting stuff. So while we're still on the subject of wastewater plants, we brought a proposal to capital last year to replace the antiquated heating system in there. That was one of only 2 oil-fired furnaces that we still had in town. I'm happy to report that we were able to replace that system with an all-electric heat pump. So we're only down to 1 oil-fired burner now in town. We were able to do this project by utilizing net metering credits that the town's been storing up for several years with our solar net metering agreements. So the total project cost was $67,305, and after incentives, it only cost us $40,460 in net metering credits, and that project is complete. The Nabnasset Library HVAC replacement, the total project budget, $180,000. The winning bidder was NB Kenny, also the same company that'll be doing the HVAC systems at the new library. The winning bid came in at $142,667. I'm sad to report that the rooftop unit has been ordered, but the lead time on it is 36 weeks. So we're hoping that it was ordered middle of the summer. The unit should be in around January, and if the weather permits, we're gonna try and get it installed during February vacation, but worst case, we're thinking April vacation.
Perfect time for AC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, gotta strike while the iron's hot and get that thing in there whenever we can.
Labor costs are less in the winter.
So, the Blanchard generator replacement, we had a total budget, $90,000. The winning bid was New England Generator at $51,343. With the optional ATS, which stands for Automatic Transfer Switch Replacement, for an additional $4,728. The generator's been ordered, and we're planning to have it installed on Indigenous Peoples' Day on October 13th, because we will have to shut power down to the school while we do that work. So. The Blanchard wastewater treatment plant roof and HVAC replacement. So nothing physically has been done to the building to date, but I am working closely with the town manager's office as well as Guardian Energy Management. Given the success that we had electrifying the Abbott wastewater treatment plant, we're exploring what options are available to us to potentially electrify the Blanchard treatment plant as well. We're trying very hard to capitalize on a GAP grant that the application for is due tomorrow, but that grant could potentially pay 90% of the construction costs. So we are feverishly working to try and see if this is feasible for the building itself, and we're hoping that we'll be able to take advantage of that grant. So more to come on that one.
Jeff, can you remind us if this was part of, like, this has been approved? And
Yeah,
part
that
of-
was approved
okay.
capital, that was voted on at town meeting in March.
Okay,
so.
it's just the workload that hasn't,
Yeah. Yep.
just making sure.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you.
A lot of
Yep.
irons in the fire.
I know,
Yep.
yep.
So, one of the big exciting projects of the summer, I don't know if anyone attended the football game last week, but the Westford Academy trustee field lighting project, which was completed with community preservation funds. Happy to report we got this installed a week in advance of our first home game. The budget for the project was $350,000, and the winning bidder was Central Mass Signal, and came in at $343,222. We did have to pursue one change order that included running the controls from the power transformer over to the press box so that it could be controlled. The theatrical controls could be utilized from the press box. So I don't know if anyone saw the touchdown last week, and the lights did all sorts of fancy, effects. And I'm happy to report that that project was completed, and very happy to have that one checked off the list. So.
It might be worth noting as well, Jeff, we didn't pay extra for that. That
correct.
just happens to be a feature
That
of.
is correct. The theatrical controls
Yeah.
are part of the standard base package from Musco Lighting. So thank you for mentioning that. We did not go overboard by
touchdown celebration
getting all
doesn't-
this fanciness that we're not accustomed to.
It was
at
not
the Academy.
$8,000 for that.
We did have to pay an additional to get the controls up to the press box, but
The lighting itself.
felt like it was justified.
It was
yeah.
just something.
So, but yes, happy to report that project's been completed, and Mr. Bunyan seems very happy with his new lighting package over there. and
It's
I-
literally a night and day difference in
Yeah.
that field. I mean,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
It's really good, yeah.
It's very good.
And we're gonna be very happy that for the next 25 years, if a bulb goes out, I can call Musco and they will send someone to fix it. So
Yeah.
it comes with a 25-year warranty,
Oh,
and by the time it becomes a maintenance issue, hopefully that'll be some other facility director's issue to deal with, so, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and now we have the Stony Brook Track and Athletic Courts update. So, very happy to report that we are on schedule and under budget at this point. So the original project budget that was voted on was $2.2 million in community preservation funds. Winning bidder was MJ Cataldo, and they came in at $1,998,000. We've had 10 approved change orders to date, 3 of which were actual credits to the tune of a total of $31,769. So right now, our total contract price to date is $2,003,000. I don't know, I'm probably not even reading that right.
No.
2 million,
Yep, yeah.
2 million and change, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, as of right now, the project, they're paving this week and next week. They're hoping that after that, they'll be able to get the court surfacing done on the athletic courts as well as the track. There's a 21-day curing time that's needed for that, so we're really not planning on taking the construction fence down until the end of October. That's so, at this point, we've had to relocate the cross-country season over there, but, the project's really coming out great, very happy with it, and like I said, on schedule and under budget is a beautiful thing, so.
A lot of interested faces at Westfest, looking over
Yeah.
there on
Yeah,
Saturday.
They
a
were,
lot of
yeah.
foot traffic
No,
taking
just
them.
people,
Yeah.
people are excited.
Yeah.
My only concern about our schedule is the geese. I went over there last week, and there's a significant amount of goose signs on the track. So I don't know, I may have to get a police detail down there the night we surface that to keep any
Need some
geese from.
scarecrows
We may need something. So if anyone has any great methods on keeping geese off a track for 24 hours, please feel free to share.
A sign of genius.
So.
My daughter's college had wooden, like, fake coyotes or something.
Well, that's
Stony has
the
them.
field.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
That
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
work.
We have several of those deployed down there, and usually you'll see a whole gaggle sitting right next to it. So I don't know if we need to get some snarlier looking coyotes down there or
Maybe
what.
like a
but-
voice-activated
Say some
coyote.
voices.
Yeah, so if
Or
anyone has
even-
any great ideas, call the facilities office. I'm open to
I feel
suggestions.
like there
Sounds like
should be a
a
student
robotics
club to
club.
figure that out.
That-
Oh, yeah. Loud music, the neighbors would love it.
So the next one, it merits an update. So the Blanchard Middle School roof and HVAC, I know this is kind of what probably seems like old news at this point, but to me, there's still a few things hanging out there that I feel like it's worth reporting. Today, I would say we're about 98% complete, but there is a few punch list items related to the HVAC that I'm still trying to close the loop on. We're hoping to completely close this out over the next month or so. But I will say that, working in conjunction with the town manager's office, we are really trying to finalize plans for what the solar photovoltaic system is going to look like over there. With the big, beautiful bill, some of these incentives for solar are going to be going away. So we're trying to really get on top of getting some of this under contract pretty quickly so we can get the tax incentives that are out there for this. So there'll be more information coming in the upcoming months because we need to have some answers finalized by the end of the calendar year. So our next, I wanted to provide an update on some of the energy efficiency projects that we've done in the schools over the last year and a half. These aren't quote-unquote capital, but I think there's a lot here, and I felt like it was worth updating the committee on this. And I will say once again, really appreciate the support that I've had from Mike Edwards at Town Hall, helping me figure out how to finance and make these projects happen. Something we haven't talked about in a while was the Amoresco investment grade audit that we did back in 2022. They identified several ECMs, energy conservation measures, that the town could pursue. Although we haven't chosen to pursue them through a performance contract with Amoresco yet, we've been identifying and picking off the low-hanging fruit that they identified, and a lot of that is lighting and weatherization projects. So happy to report that in FY24, we completed 2 weatherization projects at Westford Academy and Rita Miller. It resulting in an $1,186 a month savings. We paid for those with the Green Communities grant money, so no out-of-pocket cost for the town. In FY25, we pursued lighting projects at Westford Academy and Rita Miller. Those were both Phase 1 projects because there will be more work to be done at those 2 schools. Total net project cost there is $263,158, and those are all being done with on-bill repayment. FY25, we did weatherization projects at Nabnasset, Blanchard, Stony Brook, and Crisafulli. Total project cost was $260,410. And that is the one project where we did have some out-of-pocket costs from the school department. So there was a net project cost for $66,539. And the reason we ended up paying out-of-pocket on that is we are trying to make ourselves a little more nimble when it comes to acting on rebate incentives that come available. A lot of times the National Grid will put out these incentive packages and you don't really hear about them unless you get some whispers from a contractor who says, hey, by the way, there's these incentives, they're going away in 3 weeks, so can you do it? And working with Town Hall, we've been able to figure out how we can jump on these projects and capitalize on the incentives quickly. So Dr. Chu was kind enough to indulge me when I came to him and said, can we find a little bit of funding to do these projects?
And Jeff, just on that side, that totals about $1 million in projects that is with that out-of-pocket cost at the bottom of 66,000. So
Yep.
just
And,
want to add all that up.
and recurring savings.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Grand total between both of these slides, we're talking about $3.2 million worth of work that we've
Yeah.
been able to figure out how to do with either incentives, net metering credits, or on-bill repayment, so. And yes, it results in a great monthly savings for us across the building, so. Energy efficient projects that are coming up in FY '26, we have lighting projects for Phase 2 at Westford Academy and Rita Miller. Phase 1 at Blanchard, Chrysopoli, Nabnasset, and Stony Brook. Cumulative monthly savings amongst all the schools, $12,100. And total project cost 1.3. OBR, after the incentives, we're talking an on-bill repayment of $454,650. And I could go way more in depth with how this all works and the simple payback on this, but that's another spreadsheet for another day. And then also in FY '26, we're going to be doing a lot of transformer replacements at Chrysopoli, Rita Miller, Stony Brook, and Westford Academy. Monthly savings of about $3,370. Net project cost $276,454. Thank you. Bless you. And that'll be done with on-bill repayment and Green Communities grant funding as well. So we're doing a great job picking off the energy efficiency projects, which results in operational savings for us. And we're going to continue to keep going. And as these incentives are available, we're going to try and pounce on them and continue to do this work. So.
I have a question. Are there savings, are these coming from town line budgets, or are these going to directly hit to our school budgets? Because I know some of our accounts now are joint across town schools.
Any accounts directly related to a school building that has its own separate account will be applied towards.
So these ones will come directly out of our budget. Awesome.
I was just going to say,
Or add to our budget, I should say, not come out of them.
I'm sure these are all taking a lot of time, but they seem really worthwhile, so thank you.
Yeah, I can't say enough about, we found a great partner in Guardian Energy Management. They are what's known as a performance expediter through the grid. Most of this work has been happening during second shift, so I tip my cap to any of our night custodians that have helped smooth the roads and the logistics of making this happen, but can't say enough about how smoothly this team's been able to deliver projects for us, so. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Okay. All right, on to what's coming up. So the big capital ask of the year is the Westford Academy roof, HVAC, and building management system replacement. We have a mixed bag of very large York rooftop HVAC units on the roof at the Academy. They are all well beyond their useful life, and they're having increased amounts of critical failures that are affecting several areas of the school. Because of the age of these units, Johnson Controls wrote me a letter a month ago, and they will no longer provide repair proposals to fix any of this equipment. We have had several issues this summer where we tried to see if we can source parts, various controllers, condenser fan motors, and it basically culminated with them writing me a Dear John letter saying, sorry, we're no longer even going to offer proposals for this. So I'll preface this by saying it was my original intent to put this in the capital for FY '28, but given the fact that it seems like things are escalating quickly and the failures seem to be running a little more frequently now, I feel it's time to bump this up the priority list and get this into the database. Like we did with Blanchard, anytime you're doing an HVAC replacement on a roof, it makes sense to do the roof concurrently with the HVAC replacement. The roof is 26 years old at this point. The 2018 roof conditions assessment that was done by the town across all buildings listed the roof in poor condition and needed to be replaced within 3 years, and that was back in 2018. So we certainly have some documentation that supports this. The Siemens BMS system has not been supported by Siemens since 2021. They sunsetted support on that. The BMS affects Westford Academy, Stony Brook, Miller, Blanchard, and Crisafulli schools, and has become a huge problem for us and a big line item when we're having equipment failures. Siemens, I don't like to see any invoice with the letterhead that says Siemens on it. Let's just say that. They really beat you up pretty bad on the price, and unfortunately, it's getting hard for us to diagnose and troubleshoot our HVAC issues because we have such a failing building management system. It's very difficult to actually track down whether it's an equipment failure or a software failure. So, and lastly, in the SMMA report from 2022, they listed all three of these systems as a major critical need for the district. So before I do the big unveiling of
Is that, before you do that, might also just throw in the anecdotal piece of the sprinkler system on,
Yeah,
putting
is
the
that what this
sprinklers
picture
on the
is?
roof to keep it cool?
Sure. This past summer, the unit in particular that cools, yep, there's the picture of it right there,
Yeah.
that cools the main office area and the administrative wing of the academy. We had a condenser fan motor go down that keeps the coils cool so that unit doesn't overheat. We worked for a month trying to get Siemens, or I'm sorry, Johnson Controls to replace that fan for us. And after a month, they basically told us that they couldn't deliver parts for us. Doing whatever we could to try and keep the administrators cool over there, we had to do a little bit of a MacGyver sort of operation there, and we had to cool the coils manually with water. So we've got a hose running up through the courtyard to the coils, keeping them cool. So
Thank you.
it's not a sustainable practice. Let's just say that. I don't even love talking about it. So
We'll just say, on a roof that was considered poor condition
In 20
5 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yep.
right. And I'm not saying that as a slight on the fix. I'm saying in a highlighting the criticality of this
Yep.
project.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So, before we get to the piece about what we have for estimates to date, I think there's some important things to consider with this project. There's no doubt in my mind that there's a potential for MSBA participation in an accelerated repair project. That it could possibly include the roof, HVAC, BMS, and the structural work that might be needed to make the roof solar ready, similar to what we did at Blanchard. The statement of interest period will happen in April, so at that point, we're hoping that we'll have enough information gathered at that point where we could submit a statement of interest and hopefully get into the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program. I don't want to speak out of hand, but on the Blanchard project, they reimburse 48% of the project cost. So if we can pull that off and actually include more than just the roof replacement, that'll be a huge win. Going back to mentioning Amoresco, this is 3.5, 4 years in the making now at this point, but I will say that Mike Edwards and I are working very hard. We've been working with Amoresco over the past couple months, even though we've plucked out all the low-hanging fruit out of what they suggested in the IGA report. We still feel like there's a significant amount of meat left on the bone for what could make a performance contract in town. So if everything goes to plan, and we should know more in the next couple weeks from them, what the total cost of a scope might look like, we're hoping that we could potentially include this entire scope at the academy in with a bigger performance contract that would include and touch upon other buildings in town, like the Cameron Senior Center, the building management systems in these other buildings. So we are hoping that this all works out, and we're hoping that in March we're voting on a performance contract, not just the academy work. So
Are those exclusive, Jeff?
Oh, isn't that the same question?
Like, if
The
it went,
MSBA.
if it gets packaged with Amoresco, does that negate the MSBA path?
that would be something we'd have to clarify with
Okay.
Director of Finance and Legal
Yeah,
Counsel.
yeah.
I
Okay.
don't believe that would preclude us from
So
taking
TBD.
part in the MSBA.
Okay.
However, I know that to be part of the MSBA, you do have, especially in the accelerated repair program, you have to work with certain vendors they have
Right.
for OPMs.
Sure.
So I'm not sure how that would work
Okay.
out and what that would take us out of.
Right.
So.
Okay, thanks.
other things to consider is the estimates that we have were from SMMA's report back in 2023. They include a apples-to-apples replacement of what's there now. So no thought or engineering has been given to opportunities for potentially decarbonizing or grants that could be available for, converting to VRF equipment. So once again, we haven't begun the engineering phase of this to see what other options are out there. So the estimates I have today are for an apples-to-apples replacement of what's up there. And with that being said, also, at the time when these estimates were created, that was in the fall of 2022, and right around the time when the inflation was really going absolutely bonkers. And I think that the estimates were created when there was a fair amount of uncertainty in the markets and what was to come. So I'm hoping that now that things seem to have stabilized a little bit, and I've definitely noticed a trend in some of our estimates or actual bids coming in much lower than what were estimated at that time. So I'm knocking on wood and hoping that our actual project cost is significantly less than the number I'm about to share with you. So if you want to flip to the next slide, here's the big reveal, and it's probably almost impossible to read on that screen. So what we have here is this is direct excerpt from the SMMA report. The estimates were done by a company called Peter Bradley, and he's pretty renowned cost estimator in the area, does a lot of these. This is basically costs for the roof replacement and any and all HVAC units related with the roof, and there's even a few line items for some heating, ventilating units. My feeling is that if we're going to do this level of HVAC in the building, I don't want to exclude small portions of the system. I think that we'd be behooved to, if we're going to do it, let's do it all, and that way we're not paying a second mobilization cost to come back and do it again. So these estimates were created in the fall of 2022. So I had to escalate the project costs out to present day, and I applied 6% per year to those costs, bringing us to a present day estimate of $24,694,526. We are hoping that, like I said, this project gets bundled in with a much bigger performance contract, and we're hoping that entire project comes in much less than this. But right now, I have to share the estimates that I have today, and this is what I have today. And it's a very large, scary number. So, if anybody has any questions, concerns, I'm sure there's lots of concerns. Happy to answer any.
Is the building management system one of these line items?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's number 3 there. Install new HVAC controls, building management systems.
I see. And you mentioned that the building management system affects other schools, but not this one directly. You're just saying this type is present in other schools.
It affects this one directly, and I believe that the cost estimate they provided there would actually be it would be replacing it not only here, but the other 4 schools as well that are. So.
Okay.
My goal is to have every building in town operating on one building management system. Right now, I have 3 or 4 different systems spread around the town, and it obviously creates problems for me.
Gotcha.
So,
In a best case scenario where there was funding, what sort of timeline would the MSBA accelerated repair phase, like what would that take, how long are we talking?
I don't know what the accelerated repair program would require of us yet, but in my opinion, the size and scope of the roof itself, it would have to be broken up into phases. I don't believe there's any way that this could possibly be blown out throughout the course of a summer. So I would have to assume that this work would probably occupy the better part of a couple of years.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note the potential cost of not doing this type of work, though, as well,
Yeah.
right? Escalating 6% every year, but also a true failure of either the roof or HVAC systems. You're talking emergency rates and
Yep.
Potential additional damage. So yes, it's a scary number, but it's the cost of having these buildings that we just need to really recognize and really support your department in in managing that.
Thank you.
I guess building on that, can you maybe talk a little bit in layman's terms about what it looks like for the students and staff in the building if these repairs aren't done? You know, what is their experience going to be?
Well, I think, you know, it's an interior, well, first things first, building envelope is of paramount importance. If your roof is leaking, it means you're opening yourself up to moisture issues, potential mold issues. Nobody loves to see water gushing in through a ceiling in the hallway at any point in time, but you know, we know that there's some repeated areas in the building that we have to keep a close eye on. We make spot repairs as needed, and we've had some success doing that, but every year there's a few more that rear their ugly head. But on top of that, you know, the HVAC systems, you know, air conditioning is nice, but ventilation and moving air, and especially with COVID where, you know, we have custodians doing CO2 readings to make sure we're dealing with healthy classrooms. There, you know, we need air exchanges, and we need to make sure our ventilation systems are running to their best extent. So it's all part of running a healthy building is really what it is. And the reality is that these units should have been replaced 10 years ago. So it's unfortunately for this price tag, you expect there to be some sort of ribbon cutting ceremony or something, but unfortunately this is just maintenance. This is stuff that we need to do, and I would be remiss to say that there's not going to be a lot more coming. There's a lot of maintenance that needs to happen across all of our schools. So I think getting some closure and some clarity as to what happens with the Robinson School Building Committee is going to really open us up and help us plot the next 10 years of capital once we have some answers and conclusions to that. But the academy's the academy's not going anywhere. This is our biggest building in town, and we need to invest some much needed money into that.
I know that we had this talking point with Blanchard. Is WA also a shelter?
I believe it could be.
It can be, but Blanchard is
Yeah.
Blanchard is the primary dedicated
Okay.
shelter, so
Okay.
I think WA is an auxiliary support.
Okay.
But
It
I
hasn't
think
been listed. It's like-
there's another one that's even
Okay.
before that.
Okay, just curious.
And you know, just to kind of reiterate too, you know, we've got a very healthy rentals program going on. Over the summer, we had 2 dance recital companies rent our theater. And on one of those weekends, the HVAC system in the auditorium stopped working with 400 people in the auditorium. And, you know, I take a certain amount of personal pride in being a facilities director, and that's the sort of thing when you have a room full of people, it just doesn't reflect well on the maintenance of the buildings when you lose an HVAC system when you're hosting events like that. So it's well past due that we get this work done, so.
Well,
Yep.
the AC, but if we're losing heat when we need heat for 6 or 7 months of the year, you might be able to get by with opening windows and ventilating without AC, but we can't get through the winters without heating the building, so.
Yes.
Well, and there's also a
even more so.
significant number of rooms that don't have windows too, though,
That's the other
because
thing,
you're right.
yeah.
But there's actually a lot of interior spaces, probably more at WA than any of the other buildings, which is
Which goes
also.
back to the ventilation
yeah.
issue. yeah.
And we did actually, this past summer, we had an issue, I can't recall which exact rooftop unit it was, but it served the second floor interior classrooms that did not have
Yeah.
functioning windows. So that was a crucial need, and we were lucky that we were able to get that back up and running again pretty swiftly, but we're working with borrowed time here at the academy. So this is a very important project that needs to get done.
So Jeff, just to give everybody an idea, this is now going to the capital meeting, and then from capital, it will come to town meeting, annual town meeting in some shape or form.
And then
If it's
it's
approved by
approved.
capital, yeah.
Yes.
So he's bringing it to you tonight.
Yep.
As a preview, to let you know, so that you have, you have knowledge as to what's happening. And then on October 3rd, he'll be presenting it to the capital planning committee, and then they go through that whole process. And Tom and Shana both are members of the capital planning committee, and that process is a long process where every department brings different things, and then they discuss it, and then they decide to vote on what their recommendation is.
I know you said this is sort of sooner than expected, but it also isn't a surprise.
No.
I mean, we've been talking
Correct.
about this since the SMMA report, that it was looming on the horizon as one of the biggest needs that in our district. You know, it's unfortunate that our hand is being sort of forced sooner than expected, but it also isn't a shock.
No.
So I was wondering, maybe, obviously not for tonight, but as you think about bringing it to capital, do we have any data about what some of those the purchase orders from Siemens have looked like, or like the repairs, those hard to source parts? Do we have any other, like, to show the impact on our operating budget, what maintaining this monster has actually taken?
Yeah. Very rarely can I get Siemens in to work on a building for a whole day without it costing us $4,000 to $5,000.
Right.
It's typically when they show up, it's very rarely do they finish in a day.
Sure.
And yeah, I could certainly round up any of the service invoices that we've had with Siemens over the past few years just
Yeah.
to
I think
bolster
that
our
might be
case.
helping. Yeah.
Yep.
And I would also assume, and this may be a bad assumption, but that this equipment does not run nearly as efficiently as anything new. So we would see some return of this.
Absolutely.
Not nearly all of it, but
Yeah.
but we would also see that. So I think those are going to be not necessarily for capital, but for when we start presenting at town meeting, just kind of some of those justifying.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be increased efficiency. I think there's also going to have to be some decisions that'll need to be made by the district as we get further and further into the engineering of this system and what options are out there to us. I was reading the MSBA website today, and if we participate in the MSBA program, if you're installing any sort of VFD equipment or air source heat pump equipment, it's required that you're actually cooling all spaces in the school, which is a huge departure from what we're currently doing, where we're only cooling selective spaces in the school. So I think, operationally, there's going to have to be some decisions as to how much we want to cool of that building. So, 300,000 square feet is a lot of cooling. So. I can feel Jenny looking at me right now as I say those cooling bills are going to be expensive, so anyway.
And also just to remind people that our school building tours is going to give us the opportunity to actually get up on the roof and see it in person. So
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
4 p.m. that afternoon. Can't wait. I'll be there, Joe.
All right,
There's
sounds good.
not a ladder, I was told.
I'm not going up on this roof. I'm a two
No,
roof max.
This one's better.
There's
Yeah.
no, like, it's
This
just.
is the entry-level roof.
I already did the hard ones.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you can do that one, you can do any of them.
That stony one
That was a lot.
You were a trooper that day.
little sketchy.
Yep. So,
awesome.
if anyone has any other questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. This is a very fluid situation, and I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have even more information to share as it relates to whether or not Amoresco could be involved in this or not. So.
Yeah, I think we'd love updates, whenever it makes sense. And I know we don't have a practice of voting on the capital procedure package, but I hope you feel our support.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, last but not least, I guess we have this little slide with other capital requests that are much smaller in nature here. So
They look like
we have 2 fire alarm control panels that need to be replaced, one at Miller Elementary and then one at Nabnasset Elementary. Both of them, Miller particularly, is having a lot of problems that are leading to a lot of service calls and also a lot of visits that are unnecessary from the fire department at all hours of the night. The Miller system is 28,000 and the Nabnasset Elementary system is 37,000. Also in the database is the replacement of a Chevy 2500 plow truck, vehicle replacement. I'm trying to get on a reoccurring schedule of how often we replace our vehicles, but we do have one particular truck in particular that is starting to rust out significantly, and it's definitely due for a replacement. So that 90 includes the truck, the utility body on the back of it, and a 9-foot Fisher plow on there.
Jeff, can I ask, does that live at one particular building, or does it service a few schools?
It services all schools, so
All schools,
that's one
okay.
of our maintenance vehicles that lives at 30 Beacon Street and is driven by one of our tradesmen, so.
Gotcha. Super, thanks.
And then, last but not least, we have the replacement of a tractor. So we have 2 tractors in our fleet, one of which lives at the wastewater treatment plant at the academy. It's a Kubota. It does a variety of operations, but most importantly, it has a 5-foot wide, actually a 6-foot wide snowblower attachment, so it plows the big patios and walkways during the winter time. But it's also used by our grounds department to do fertilizer, seed spreading, any digging activities that it might need to do. But we also have it's a cheap tractor that we inherited from the water department about 15 years ago that lives at the maintenance garage, and we use it to load our hoppers for salt in the wintertime. And that unit is failing to the point where we had to put $4,000 into it last year, and I basically got a letter from that supplier saying I really don't even feel comfortable servicing this piece of equipment anymore. So our goal would be to take the Kubota that's currently at the academy and bring it back to the garage to utilize in that capacity, and then put the new unit out at the academy. So,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Quick question on the fire alarm pieces. Are those resulting in alarms during the school day that are disrupting learning?
Not alarms, but troubles pop up on the panel where you'll walk into the vestibule and have some really annoying beeping coming at you, and some of the troubles are intermittent. They'll come and go. One minute you'll walk by and it's beeping, then the next minute it's not. But Miller has been plagued by a lot of these phantom troubles, and this is the other reality as we talk about capital. Our quote-unquote new schools, Miller, Crisafulli, and Stony Brook, are now 20 years of age, and the systems on those schools are coming due. So even our new schools we're getting there. So, yeah.
That was gonna be my question, actually. Do those have like a lifespan?
Yep.
And these are just both past it, or?
They're right there. Well, Nabnasset is well past it. That system went in the mid-90s.
Okay.
So that one, I would say Nabnasset would be, well, they're both urgent because Miller has become such a maintenance issue, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. But Nab is older than Miller's. So that's what I have in the capital database today for school projects. I kind of didn't have the heart to put too much more in there after I threw that academy one in there, so. I think that project is going to occupy the better part of 2.5 years of coming up, so.
Well, we'll still get you a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, for the roof.
That makes sense.
I'll climb up there for a ribbon cutting.
All right, well, just
All
having
done.
those units replaced would be all the ribbon cutting I need. It just would be a huge burden off our shoulders to have that one done, so.
It might add years to his life. We doesn't
Yeah.
need a ribbon for that.
I just want to say thank you, because I think that you apologized for saying that you needed more time, but this was wonderfully thorough.
Yes.
And I also I think they're all aware too, but I just want to say, you've had more things on your plate as the director of facilities than I think anyone before you has had, especially the number of things happening at the same time, and the way in which they've all fallen together, and the way in which you've managed to remain sane is awesome.
My wife might disagree with me on that, but thank you for saying.
I was going to say you haven't
So,
pulled
yeah.
your hair out, but I couldn't really say that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to see the work that you have achieved and that your team has achieved. There's real work happening and action happening, and so I appreciate that, Jeff. It's not easy.
But the other thing that I want to say is that we've talked about it, because we will be talking about our budget, is that we don't have preventative maintenance in our budget. It hasn't existed. I don't know if it's ever really existed, because we've always been trying to do what we can with less. And so, the fact that we're now dealing with all of these things is also speaks to the way in which things have been funded.
Right. And I was just gonna add too, just a reminder that his job title is actually Director of Facilities for Town and Schools.
That's right.
So when you're driving by the gutted library, that's also on your plate.
That's right.
Right, so like
That's on
you're-
you.
you're juggling so much, and we appreciate
There's a
you
lot
showing
going on.
up every day.
We're busy every day.
You,
Thank
you
you.
articulate it so well, and
Yeah.
I always recommend to friends in town that they watch these presentations, especially before us, because you put it out there so clearly, and I
Yeah.
think it gives a broad view on everything that's happening in this town, so thank you for that work.
Thank you. Excellent. All right.
Thanks a million, Jeff.
How'd we do?
Great.
They're all right. We were late starting
A
too.
little bit, not too bad. All right.
I spent too long.
Have
on
a
it.
great night.
Because we had to
Thank you.
sell.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff. Good night.
Will I go again? Awesome. Okay, so a few weeks in now to our new year, we're going to talk about our new school start time updates and how that rollout's going and any feedback. And
Yep.
you've been working away on that.
So
data.
we've shared some data with you. It still comes across very much as a snapshot. We're trying to collect even more data, and I think even as we go through this week, we'll have even more. In conversations with the leadership team, and even looking at the data and saying, okay, is this matching up with what the experiences are? 6 through 12, things are actually going very well. Transportation has been going very well. There was, some concerns about the start, the first when people were first being picked up, and was that necessary? I think when we look at there are, for the most part, the majority of the buses are getting to WA at around 7:40. In talking with Principal Toomey, we at first were holding everybody until 7:40 and not letting anybody get off the buses until 7:40. That is actually creating more of a traffic problem. So as a bus comes in at 7:37, he is actually letting the bus release so that they can keep moving, because there's just not enough room for the students and for the staff to be getting there. So it's still within that window, and so they're very optimistic of the way in which that is playing out. He's been collecting anecdotal information from students, and the comment that he hears the most is things are just more chill. Things are more chill in the morning, right? Students are talking about having 45 to 60 minutes of just whether they're getting that sleep or whether just their morning isn't rushed. It's just having a massive impact as they're coming into the school day. We do have 2 students who are here who might be able to attest to that. There have been concerns about the timing of the late buses, so we've had some concern with that. We're working with Dee to see, okay, is that a logistics thing, or is that just as late buses are running, whether they're going to the middle schools first or to the academy first? We had one day where a late bus didn't show up to one of the schools, so that was problematic. So we're working on that. And then there was questions about whether there has been an increase in ridership or not. I think it sort of feels like there's more students on the bus. When we actually look at that data, there's not more students. We have fewer students who have registered for bus passes this year, but we also just have fewer students in general. So I think that's kind of hard to see, but we can look to see what we can see what the riders, the actual student riders are on the bus, but I want to really look to see, can we connect that to what it was like last year? I'm not really sure for that piece of it. And then we are concerned that the middle schools, the buses are getting there. A lot of them are getting there at 7:40 and then sitting for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Not all of them are, but so we're going to work with D-Bus about, okay, well, can we delay that? Like the students we're not letting them off at 7:40. They can wait until 7:50. It's not a traffic issue like it is at the academy. So they really should be delaying those runs. But before we start making any massive changes, we want to figure out how that's going to be communicated, and then it's also going to impact the next piece as we talk about the K-5 as well too. So this is what we're looking at with this information. We want to see, like I said, the goal is to reduce how long students are on buses, right? Both at the 6 through 12 level and at the K-5 level in general.
Yeah, I will say, as I was looking through the data, I was kind of highlighting that there was quite a number of buses across them that even if you just push the pickup time back by 5 minutes, it would kind of fall in line better, and you don't have students waiting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I remember correctly, we were hearing anecdotally that there were some buses at WA last year that students were sitting on the bus waiting for 15, 20 minutes, and we clearly are not seeing
That's not happening.
that.
That's not happening,
which was definitely one of the concerns we wanted to make sure we were addressing, so that's good.
I ran averages, in case I don't know if anyone else played with the data, but all three, the two middle schools in WA, their average bus times are all 26, 27 minutes, like the average across the three schools.
Bus time,
Yeah.
drive time.
WA's average is 27 driving time, and the two middle schools were both at 26 averages.
Yeah.
So it's not, there was, one anomaly on each one a little bit, but
Yeah.
still reasonable distances there. Is the student count, is that the number of kids registered, and then the actual riders are like the averages that are showing up in the bus? Or I was just trying to figure out what the differentiation was with those.
So the student count is the number of students who are assigned to that bus.
Assigned to that bus, so
But then
then
the actual riders are the numbers
typically
that
what
they're
we're
seeing
seeing.
typically.
So
yeah.
sometimes maybe someone's in the morning and not in the afternoon, or just isn't taking the bus every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a snapshot, like you said.
Yeah.
Because then athletics start or clubs start, and so, yeah, it's hard to tell.
The
Yeah.
other thing to note just on that is, and I had reached out earlier to clarify, we're paying, we, I think in our contract have 35 bus routes.
Correct.
And right now, we are running 34 bus routes
That is what it
across
seems, yes.
those three schools that run.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we ever feel like we need to alleviate, some buses somewhere that potentially we have scope for adding another one, possibly. I don't know.
I think that's something that we can look at.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily seeing anything that is
Yeah.
such an outlier that it would.
No, absolutely.
Would
yeah.
it be something that could impact the late buses? Maybe adding an extra late bus run? I'm just,
Yeah,
that may run into the elementary buses
it
not
does. The
having
afternoon
available bus, but-
becomes a little bit more complicated because what we'll talk about in a minute is as we look at the K to 5, because the elementary school day is shorter than the 6 through 12 school day.
the start.
There's a lot more time in the morning, so we could push back for that matter, like the buses, it's okay for the middle school buses to actually be let go, dropped off at 7:50, because they still have time before they need to start their next run. But in the afternoon, as we saw, there are some schools that are reporting it being difficult for the buses to get to the 3 to 5 school in time for dismissal, right? Now, the principals have told me that normally they are there, so we're just still watching that because in this data, you're seeing like 3 or 4 buses that are showing up after 3 o'clock, after the times. And so I think some of that was also an anomaly. We're trying to, again, make sure that, okay, are they there? They're also rolling through in waves, and that's the way that it works at the elementary level. But we're looking to see, well, we'll just move to I'll move to the K to 5, right? So as we look at K to 5, again, we're looking to see how can we decrease the amount of time that students are on the buses. So we're considering how we might adjust these times. And one of the first questions is there enough time for buses to get to the 3 to 5 schools in the afternoon? So we have to look at that before we look at adjusting the time, because one thing we were looking at immediately was keeping the 3 to 5 times exactly as they are and adjusting the K to 2 times to be closer to the 3 to 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
But we might need to adjust the 3 to 5 times to give them a little bit more air if that's really what's happening. And so before we make that decision, I really want to nail that down, because if we move the K to 2 schools earlier and that amount of time between where the students are sitting, sure, that might be alleviated. But if the buses aren't getting to the 3 to 5 schools in time, making that adjustment doesn't really help.
Right.
And we still have students who are then just getting late. They wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't decrease when the students are getting home in the afternoon at the end of the run,
Right.
potentially. So we just want to look at it, because we might decrease the time that they're on the bus by actually moving the 3 to 5 schools
Yeah.
back 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So for example, right now, they're 8:50 to 2:55. Well, we might look at moving them to 8:55 to 3, and then keeping the K to 2 schools where they are,
Yeah.
right? But then we can also consider moving both of them. So we're looking at, do we move the K to 2 up 5 minutes? So they could be 9:05 to 3:10, and then Robinson could be 8:55 to 3 as well, too. Another thing that we're looking at, again, because the Abbott-NAB issue is different than
Yeah.
the Crisafulli and Robinson. One thing that we're talking about is if Robinson and Crisafulli actually had the same schedule, could we send half of the buses to Robinson first and half of the buses to Crisafulli and then swap so that traffic was better? But that only works if they're on the exact same schedule. And then does the 10-minute window of pickup that they have kind of built into that time, does that still work for families that would be needing to drop off at both schools? So that's one of the things that we're kind of considering. There was significant traffic issues at Robinson. Renee D went over there and looked at the way the buses were lining up and made some adjustments. And so Principal Lacoste said that the traffic pattern has been alleviated, but there's still just the timing of it. And so that was one of the things that they had thought about, is this whole 50-50 piece of the buses. But like I said, in order for that to work, they would have to be on the exact same schedule. Another possibility would be to leave them exactly as they are, but then just still shrink the time again, because they still don't even need as much time as they have between their two schools. And then the other thing is, we were initially thinking Miller and Day we had set up with 20-minute windows because that's what we thought families needed. But that can be, that we think could be reduced as well too. And do they really need 20 minutes between them, or could they be, could that time be shortened to only a 15-minute time frame between them? Because the problem is that now students at Miller might not be getting off the bus until close to 4 o'clock or after as well too. And that, I think, is problematic. So if we could bring them earlier, that's getting students home earlier in the afternoon as well too, even though they're not on the combined runs in the same way that Day is. So this is what we've been talking about. This is what we've been looking at. We want to really look to see what moving those times would do before we actually make a decision, and then we'll bring that to you to talk about, because you voted on the times in the beginning. You would really need to adjust them as well too. And we need to communicate that. And then the other piece that I just want to throw in there is the weather. So right now we're responding to really awesome fall weather and people getting used to routes. And do we make adjustments that then could only be impacted when the roads are less clean? And it takes us a little bit longer for people to be moving if there's, you know, a little bit of snow
or even just rain.
Or just rain, yeah.
Right. Visibility issues. So just to be clear, you're talking about potential changes. Are you considering the idea of mid-year? Just to make sure, are we looking at a mid-year change, or are we looking at, you know, we're learning this year and potential changes for next school year?
I am thinking if we identify a change that we think would be effective, I would propose that we make that change this year.
Okay. Just
whether
to make
it's
sure it's out
mid-year
there.
or I don't know, that might seem like a time that would make sense, but I really need to see what those are. And that's why when we were asking people for patience, because any one thing could have a massive impact.
Correct.
And so it could be just shifting one group and moving it by 5 minutes. Well, that might be something that we could come back and we propose that to you, and we say, okay, that could actually start next month, right? On this date, we could make that change.
I'm not saying mid-year being January.
Right.
I'm saying in the midst.
In the middle,
of,
yes.
Of,
So yes. So to answer that, I think
Okay.
I think that if we see something that we think could have a positive impact on and decrease the amount of time that students are sitting on a bus, we should propose it and see if in what timely manner we can do it.
I had a dumb question.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just I couldn't think of I was looking for Abbott and Nab and then Crisafulli and Robinson, the time on the bus in the morning versus the time on the bus in the afternoon.
Yeah.
There was a pretty big differential in some of those, and
Yeah.
I was sat here for a while racking my brain trying to figure out like why the backwards forwards routes would have such a grave difference, and I came up empty.
Oh,
So
no, but
didn't
I can
know
tell you,
if-
I think it's an excellent observation.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not a dumb question at all. It's an excellent observation. The issue is, first of all, loading the buses from the schools in the afternoon just takes more time. The other piece is that when we look at it, almost across the board, they're all getting to the K-2 schools well before dismissal time. So they're sitting, so that time is included in there. The actual time in which they're sitting on the bus. So you'll see that if you look at the Abbott and Nabnasset, for example, they're getting to, in the afternoon, a bus is leaving Abbott shortly after 3 o'clock, getting to Nabnasset at 3:05, 3:05,
Until they're
right?
sitting there for
They're not
15 minutes.
dismissing until 3:15.
It just seemed that there was not a lot of rhyme or reason, because like at Nab Abbott, the bus 26 is shorter
Yeah.
by a considerable amount.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones were slightly longer
Yeah.
or something in between the window. So it didn't seem like there was an exact rhyme or reason to they're loading faster or not loading faster, because there wasn't like consistency across the routes.
Well, that,
And
and
some
I
of
look at
them-
that, actually, some of that math isn't correct either, though, in some cases, but you're right.
And a lot of them are like 11 minutes, 10 or 11 minutes shorter on the ride home, which is great.
Yeah.
The kids are getting home earlier, but what is impacting it in the morning that's making it 11 minutes longer? Because some of these ride times are up over 40 minutes, and I feel like that's a zone we'd rather be
Oh, yeah, yeah.
out of.
Yeah.
And so if we can figure out, especially the Chris Philly Robinson, most of them are considerably shorter by 8 to 10 minutes on the afternoon route than the morning route. So
The other
to your point of looking at all the data, where are we losing that 8 to 10 minutes or adding it in the morning that we're losing it in the afternoon?
Got you.
And is there a way to lose it in the morning so that they're not on the buses for 40
Right.
minutes?
I wonder if some of that's traffic patterns related.
It could be because there's rush hour traffic in the morning that they're not hitting in the afternoon.
Right.
Possibly, and obviously the Christopherly Robinson district is a larger travel time geographically. They're coming from all different parts of town to get there, so that's probably a piece of it too, but logistically, they're doing the same thing on the way home. But you're right, it could be morning traffic. At 3 o'clock, it's not the same rush hour traffic, especially these buses that are traveling around Wilton Road and Boston, coming through some of those higher traffic areas maybe. I don't know, but that was one thing that stood out to me, is that there was quite a bit of differential in the morning times and the afternoon times.
Well, one thing I noted as well is that we're only running 30 bus routes on our elementary run. So, again, we have bus routes that we have potentially planned for and budgeted for, but we don't seem to be utilizing them. And again, so if there is an issue that, like you're saying, Shayna, that there's particularly long bus routes happening that's
We could them-
impacting us,
yeah, add
can
an
we
extra
split that
route.
across an extra route?
This may be another dumb question. If we're not using those routes, are they refunding us that money? Because if not, we should be going to, they should be running, we should not be having kids going to Chris Philly Robinson at 40+ minutes if we have available bus routes, in my opinion. We should go back to D and say, this is not, we have this many routes left,
Yeah.
figure it out. And I think some of those parental emails that we received about the longer bus routes in that Phillips Drive area where Christopherly families, I don't know exactly where they fall in this bus schedule without looking, but maybe that's a dual opportunity to add additional routes that may also alleviate some of those neighborhoods that were.
Well, the other question I have that's popped up is, I do find, I'm trying to kind of figure out is, if we're saying we're struggling with some of the late buses in the afternoon, but we're already running 4 routes, 4 buses less from between pickup of middle school and high school, and who are going on to elementary. So that means there should be 4 buses who aren't doing any elementary bus runs and should be automatically going back to the middle schools and high schools for the,
Well, some of
late
those
buses.
buses, like if you look on here, some of them are dedicated then to the after-school activity, so that right now they are actually supporting, instead of picking up an elementary school student, they're actually supporting, taking students to
Sports.
oh yeah, and they're gone for the
Right.
afternoon.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah.
But is that a different
But
contractual
that should be a different
bus amount?
bus,
Like
yeah.
our extracurricular buses versus our,
I think
Bus
if I
transportation?
definitely think that that's something we have to look at. If they're using one of our routes to then
Yeah.
handle our,
field hockey team going
then
to it, like,
it shouldn't
that's
be an
not
additional
acceptable.
cost. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is that person doing in the morning then?
Well,
Yeah.
here it's
Right,
saying
it's
that they're
not like
running,
it's-
here it's, what they're telling us is
It's
that
not
they're
like
in
we
the
have a-
morning, they're running a WA or middle school route.
But it's not like we have routes that are saying this only happens in the morning and
Doesn't happen in the
those
afternoon.
kids are happening.
Yeah, we have full-day kindergarten, so, I mean, all the,
We're
all
not
the
doing
kids are
any, yeah.
going in the morning, coming back in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think this is really good data, and it's giving us as a whole district, some insight into improvements that can be made.
I would like this,
Yeah.
though, over a few more days, because
Yeah.
this, to
It
me,
is
feels like it's
snapshot.
only like one day. Whereas I think, you know, pick a Tuesday one week, a Friday another week, just to try and
And average it out.
capture is what we're seeing,
Yeah, what's typical,
is a typical.
yeah. Makes sense.
Um,
So we'll have more data on the next meeting.
Yeah. And I
And
think
I
it might
think
be,
The more data you have and the more trends you have, the better.
Yep.
be easier for
we-
you
we
to make
can-
that decision. on
It's
it.
better for you to make a proposal and better and easier for us to
Right.
support that decision, I think,
Yep.
and easier for the public to support that decision also.
I do think it would be helpful to get some clarity on the bus routes and the number of buses and where they're going, or why we're not using those options.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or, you know, kind of even coming back in that next meeting that you'd like to see or get some further information or clarity on, or?
I just have one data question on that last tab with the payment counts. It had K-6 plus 2 miles. And then it had 1,055 is registered in there, but isn't over 2 miles free? They're not paying over 2 miles? All K-6 over 2 miles?
I think that's why it's separated out.
Because then if they are paying, then they're down below in the other rows of check
Okay,
and online.
Yeah.
all right. That didn't initially make sense to me when I was reading it, but that makes sense now that it's not, the column isn't adding exponentially necessarily.
So do we have different bus payment for sixth grade versus seventh grade, even though they're at the same school? We do.
Sixth grade is still legally required.
Yeah.
Transportation, seventh grade is not.
Gotcha, gotcha.
That's always the kind of funny thing because, I live in the same place, but now I have to pay for it, so.
Yeah.
Grades 7 through 12 are
7 through
not
12.
subsidized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is a state law.
right. You're old enough to walk. Bye.
Apparently.
Thanks for helping pull that together. I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
I know
Well-
Dean did some of the work, but.
Jen Piper's been doing an excellent job. I think, it's always challenging to kind of get all the data, so I think we're collecting it and we're trying to move past anecdotal.
Yes.
Well, what would be helpful is, I know even one or two of the principals last year even just kind of did a snapshot of times themselves, like this
Oh, they
this
have
data
been.
is all coming
Yeah.
from D.
Yep.
But I
And
think,
they reviewed all of it. That was one
Yeah.
thing, because they were already telling us stuff and they were looking at it as well too.
Yeah.
And then they reviewed all of this to say, does this look
Like,
accurate?
yeah.
And then I know that they've been talking about, it's more, I think, the ability to take all of the data that the bus drivers are also sharing, and then for D to have the ability to compile it in a timely manner to get it to us, because that, I think, is one of their struggles right now, is that it seems like all of their office support is driving
yeah.
as well too, so it's finding that, so that's why I'm like, okay, well, we're working to get it, and we're trying to make sure that we can help as best as we can.
Okay. So the big takeaway though is that we're still collecting data, still tweaking, still monitoring with a plan for proposal at October 6th.
And just the fact that we are paying attention to it and not just going,
Right, no, I
so
think
that's
to me, it's about the times. We want to, I hope that people see that the shift in times, the impact that it has, so we have to really be mindful as to what that might look like. It is possible to make those shift. I think the questions about the number of buses, the fact that they're only running 34, they only have 34 that they can be running, but yet we're contracted for 35. I think it's an excellent question as to if all of a sudden, if they're saying that they don't have as many in the afternoon, and it's because they're utilizing it for something like activities, well then, we shouldn't be receiving a separate activities bill.
Yeah, those
If you're
buses should be
if you're
looped
using
in,
one-
or,
Right.
or run the routes and
Yeah.
alleviate some of the pain points here.
Yeah.
And, good, I was just saying, one more, I know we talked about this at the last meeting, but just to reiterate again, we're not hearing any issues with after-school athletics and getting
No.
to sporting events on time in other towns is still not becoming an issue,
Correct.
from what you're hearing.
Right.
And on the other side of the day, have you, again, it's really early, any feedback as to whether we're seeing less tardies or anything like that yet?
We did talk about that with the middle schools, and they did seem to think that was better. But they hadn't collected that specifically
Yeah.
to compare it to last year. They were the only ones who kind of spoke up and said yes. I mean, I think it's interesting. One of the things we did talk about is that there's an increase in the early arrival option. About 50 more students have kind of registered for that at the elementary level, and some of our K-2 principals shared with us just the struggle with families with kindergartners and preschool age, kind of remembering that school starts at a certain time for a reason, because kind of people seem to still think that, it's, might be more like daycare, like I drop them off when I drop them off, as opposed to, well, no, actually the day does begin, and so they don't count it as tardies, but they're like, that can be a struggle,
Yes.
is getting everybody kind of together in the community together, at the same time for the morning meeting to begin and such. That tends to be like a much younger age concern.
I will say, on the other side of it, I spoke to a 10th grader on Saturday, and I also spoke to twin 7th graders, and all three of them were really positive. The 10th grader was saying, I think between the start time shift and the shift in time that the buses are actually getting to WA, she's getting nearly 40 minutes of extra time in the morning. And the two 7th graders, they were saying they're getting a full extra half hour in the morning. Not 7th graders, sorry, they're 9th graders now. They're getting a full half hour extra in bed in the morning. And so, again, just hearing those, individual stories, and I've kind of asked them, like, do you feel it makes a difference? They're saying they feel it does, that they feel they're more awake coming in. So I don't know if you felt the same, or are you enjoying that extra bit of time?
Agree. I think always, like, last year, definitely in my first block, I felt it took me like that 30 minutes in the first half. I would be like trying to wake up, and I wouldn't like gain the information as good as I am now. And I feel like in these first blocks, I've been feeling so much more awake and like prepared for the classes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know that I've been getting more sleep necessarily, but just having like an extra half hour, like I never feel like I'm running late in the morning, so I'm like
Yeah.
more alert, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's great.
Super.
And I would just add, like, I know we're, for anyone that's watching this later or something, but I know the takeaway is that we're monitoring this to hopefully make some tweaks. And I think that we all know where we hope there's room to do that, right? Obviously, I hear a lot more from my circles in Ab and Navit side of town. And it does feel like, I'm hopeful that there are impactful changes that we could make,
Yeah.
5-10 minutes here and there, just to I know we started with a conservative sort of
Yeah.
buffer time, and I'm hopeful that at some point we can kind of keep making that more efficient.
Yep.
So, and I don't know if anyone else has heard this, but just to harp on the fact that it is, and I mean, I guess, Tom, you were very articulate about it, like, would a change happen mid-year or wait until September? I'm glad to hear you say, like, if we think it would have a positive impact, we would like to make it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that families watching know that we're not talking about massive shifts. We're not talking about, throwing it all out and going back halfway through the year or something like that. But yes, that a start time or an end time of a school day could shift by 5
to 10
or
minutes.
to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
that wasn't clear in any of the conversations I've been having. People read the notes that you send and
Yeah.
that we hear us talking about adjustments, and they thought that meant like
Or 40 minutes.
bus.
yeah.
No. They thought it meant like unofficial adjustments, like bus route here or bus route there, not like that. The doors would open at this time, the doors would close at this time. Kind of that official start and end time change could still happen 5 to 10 minutes. We don't expect it would like upend somebody's morning commute or their
Right.
work time frames, but just to know that, I can't say that more articulately.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's
They're
really important
minimal
to
changes.
sorry. Really
What, Jess?
important to over-communicate on that point. I heard from families who on the first day of school were very surprised to see their neighbor there with their, kindergarten student, and they had a fourth grade student. "Oh, what are you doing here? So that message that the buses were combined was not received by everybody. So, if we are going to change times, we need to really get that out there.
Yeah, I was thinking like, especially if we get to that point, we would propose like the robocall.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Multi-tiered approach. Okay, I'm going to move us on then, if everyone's okay with that, to the superintendent goals, and hopefully we'll be voting on them today. No? Yes. Yeah, today. I misread that date.
So I shared this, I took the same document that I had shared with you previously, and I just added some minor changes based on the feedback that I heard from you, and it's in red font for you to look at. Just trying to add some clarity. I added in the first goal, when we were talking about the vertical and horizontal alignment, I said as well as the equitable access of all district curriculum. I think that was speaking to, again, one of our priorities, and making sure that we're looking at that as well too. Also, in number 2, in the sense of belonging, talking about the idea that do we want the bar to be higher than awareness, right? I think that's true. No, but it's a good point though, right? Like, and again, no, is that the long-term goal? But just when we first started talking about this, we were talking about it last year as well too. So I think to be able to say not only are they aware of it, but specifically are they able to participate in the utilization of these strategies? And I think we can kind of collect that data as well too, which I think is helpful. The suggestion of adding the benchmark of actually, I said collect, analyze, and share data regarding the impact of the increased elementary PE and wellness instructional time. That's something that we're really talking about. So I think it would be great to say, okay, well, what is that looking like in terms of the overall wellness for our elementary students? It was something that we really wanted to make sure we could do this year, but now let's collect the data to see what that experience is like for them.
When you say impact there, though, do you mean just like the last year's students got this many minutes of PE a week, this year's students get this many, or we're seeing less referrals for
I think it
behavior?
could be any of those things. I think
Oh,
it would
okay.
be interesting to say, okay, this year, students have more access to PE and wellness, and so does it mean that they're covering more topics, because we were talking about the standards changing? Does it mean that an increased physical activity has, I think that might be harder to connect.
Sure.
But I think that's a good example. We
Okay.
might see that. And then, then it was the key action in the report card committee was the compiling the recommendations and present to the full leadership and school committee. That was something that was mentioned that we were talking about it, but it just wasn't articulated as a key action, so I had added that. And then, based on the conversation that we had that Valerie reluctantly shared the feedback, talking about the increased indicator piece, and then Shayna had actually looked and reminded us that I think for people who aren't familiar with the rubric, just to remind folks that each indicator also has multiple elements that go, and so even in the very first year, we looked at an indicator and an element even, and then we're like, okay, we're kind of expanding there. So I did go back and look at it, and DESE does recommend 6 to 8 indicators. And so what I did is I added 2 there that I felt supported what we were talking about. I thought I could return the fiscal piece, because I do think our budget cycle is going to be once again challenging, but I also thought, well, I'll still add a different one, because I think that's going to just be something that's obviously observable anyway as we go through the budget process. But we are looking at a number of policy issues, changes, and the way in which we've been responding. I think that would be another good indicator that we've never collected data on specifically, so I added that. And then for standard 3, one of the things we've been talking about is kind of increasing engagement in general. And so when we had created our first strategic district improvement plan, I had talked about engagement, so I have used this one in the past, but I thought combining it here made sense.
And I just wanted to share, as part of bringing that up last time, we have, as chair and vice chair, we are part of a bit of a email distribution with some area school committee chairs, and sometimes it's just kind of information sharing and stuff. And so I had asked, who's using multiple indicators to get a feel for a data set, and the majority of responses I got were what we had been doing, which was 1 per area, even though there was acknowledgement in the responses that, like, yeah, we know it says to do that, but it's just so much, and we know that our superintendent is doing so much already that we feel this is adequate. And then I saw a couple examples too, though, that had what Dr. Chu is proposing, which is, as long as it aligns with the goals, it's not that adding extra indicators means adding extra work.
Yeah.
They're just being lined up with the goals that are already being proposed. So I feel like this is a great step in the right direction. And I'm not looking for adding more for the sake of adding more. I think this strikes that right tone. Motion to approve the superintendent goals?
Second.
All
You
in
can
favor?
say
All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and moving on to the school committee goals. So I shared with everyone a kind of an updated draft earlier on this afternoon, just slightly tightening up some of the school committee goals that we'd spoken about at the last meeting. I know finance, you were going to meet last week, and it sounds like you have a long potential punch list. So we can still leave it as TBD, and we can always update it if you guys need, want, wish, desire.
I think I would propose adding a mention of fee analysis. That was, I feel like, the meat of our, so just for those of you who are on finance subcommittee, we talked about a long list of ideas, which I just had up, things that we've talked about along the way, but, with the goal of trying to narrow something down, but everything that came up, we were like, yeah, we need to do that, yeah, we need to do that, yeah, we need to do that, and,
Sounds like Jeff's problem, right?
Right. Here it is.
He was one of those.
Yes.
Actually including him in the
Yeah,
conversations
so,
was fun.
we hope that over the year, we've been talking with Jeff about how to do kind of a bit of a working group to support some of the facilities reflections and evolution of that rental process. But I think that could really ultimately tie into the policy work. We did update the fees last spring already, so that's sort of covered there. We talked about updating or doing a review of our student extracurricular fees. As you might remember, over a year ago, we approved new stipends, the MOU with our collective bargaining agreement, and had a mega club sort of tier for some of our extracurriculars. So looking at those stipends, looking at the fees that go with those, that fund those stipends. We also talked about checking in with before school care, because we had changed that to be charged by trimester to allow for the flexibility with the start time changes, so checking in on that. We talked about some athletics. So I think even though I had kind of optimistically thought that once we got that NGFG, we would be like, fees are good, we're good. But it's clearly a vehicle that will help us articulate findings and stuff and help give us a structure for that. But I think that we all sort of had consensus that sooner rather than later, especially in time for the budget process, that we would like to dive into some of those fees, and see what we find. So, I would say, yeah,
So like a
or
review
or
of,
select fees.
review of student extracurricular fees and
I would leave it as select fees.
select fees, okay.
I wouldn't want to pigeonhole us into
Yep.
one.
Okay.
I mean, and even bus fees, I would say, was on the table, right? Like, we
Bus fees,
are
park
just
fees,
kind of.
they're all kind of,
Yeah.
Yep.
And don't forget, we have some old data we can use there.
Yeah.
Because I
On
spent
budget.
very many hours with some help from
Yeah.
Kathy too, and some of the
Yeah,
other,
yeah.
collecting fee comparisons across other school districts.
Was that was for the budget task force? Yeah. It's not that old.
No, it's like
It feels ancient now,
Yeah.
but
You've lived a lifetime
there's a
since.
lot of existing data from that collection in 2022.
Yeah.
I do feel like that the first point is a little bit broad. I mean,
Okay.
yes, we want to keep working on it, but I know that we had a little bit of discussion about, we have
Some low-hanging fruit.
some low-hanging fruit that's just making sure that the policy actually matches what we're doing, job titles, things like that. So, you know, I don't mind the
Feel free to.
the goal
Yeah.
of continuing reviewing policies, but again, that's a.
If it's a broad goal, we
Yeah.
can meet it.
Yes, yeah, we worked on one,
Feel
so
free-
therefore
no,
we.
there is no.
I mean-
yeah, whatever you want to propose. It's.
We, like the policy subcommittee 2-3 years ago, we just had a goal of review all policies with the DEI lens. You know, it was broad, but again, it was something that
Measurable, at least.
measurable, yeah.
I mean, we do have a sort of a, in the spring, there is like a prioritized list,
Yeah.
sort of like highlighting areas, so I feel like we could certainly chunk off, sort of it's like.
Administrative.
Yeah.
Change,
And any
for
related
administrative
ones.
changes.
And there
or-
might be related ones, like I was saying, I
So-
think the facility conversations tie into the policy review because
Right.
there might be updates there.
But I wouldn't say that one's particularly a goal as much as a
Yeah.
reaction to other changes, whereas maybe looking for administrative
Updates.
updates. yeah.
Housekeeping updates of a handful of policies, yeah.
Well, then speaking of administrative part, with the review of the fees, this may be outside the purview of the subcommittee or us, but sometimes I think it's challenging for families to know where all the fees are and how to pay them, and there are different systems and they're shared different ways. So I don't know if there's any efficiency to be gained by centralizing to one system or one, protocol for that, but a bit confusing.
That's a good idea.
We'll kick that to the policy committee so that they can write
No,
up
no.
a
Finance.
policy document of how to find all of these
You wanna
different
know where,
places.
you wanna get the money?
Pick that back.
Tommy, do you think we should just change the word continue then, or like?
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know if administrative is the right phrase for that, but that's kind of where I'm.
Is it not a higher priority? Could it say continue review of higher priority policies in the series, or is it not
It's weird,
all?
because it's not like their priority, like, when I think priority, I think like the meat and it, or like the impact of them. These are like,
These are like knock out 10 of them that we can push off for another 3 years, basically, barring any major change, as opposed to, so it's.
Well, is it
it's-
more, are you more than creating a priority list? Because that's one of the things you can do on the Airtable. You
Yeah,
can
we
make them
kinda-
high, medium, low, and then you're kind of setting up the framework then for what gets attention. Or we just give you the one goal.
Yeah.
no, I think both
Yeah.
are our focus areas.
Yeah.
It's just,
I just struggle with the very broad.
Yeah.
Continue to review, like, we've done it already because we looked at them. We looked at the list.
so
right?
like update,
Yeah.
Update.
Yeah, that works.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
I would just add,
yeah,
go for it. So like when we do those reviews of any in-depth ones, we would bring them to the full committee and make any recommendations.
yep. Does our success criteria then meet that then?
Still pretty.
Still pretty broad.
Motion to approve school committee goals for FY '26.
Second?
Second,
All in
Third.
favor?
whatever.
There we go.
We know what we gotta do.
Okay,
Great.
and we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?